And I had life figured out, right? And I remember one day I said, you know what, God, man, I got this life thing figured out. I promise you, I said this. I've got this life thing figured out. And there are a lot of people out there that I know really need you. Like they can't function without you. I'm really doing pretty well. I'll call you if I need you. So,
Oh,
so I'm
wow.
going to say that, oh, yeah, I'm not proud of this. Okay. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, it caught up with me. Um, but but there was this, yeah, I've kind of got this figured out. Life is kind of like a vending machine, you know. If I put in hard work and effort and a good attitude and grit and all of this, that good things will come out of it. And and I learned as time went on, you know, you get married and you have children and you realize the need for other people. But I'm going to tell you, when my husband died, uh I realized then how badly I needed other people.
Welcome to Her Desire to Live podcast, a community where we come together to discuss all things Jesus, family, life, and faith. I am your host, LaShaundra. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's episode, we have another special guest. She is a teacher, trained speaker, and member of the preaching team at her church. She has just released her first book, Made for Community, a biblical model to activate your purpose. She believes God created each of us to exist in reciprocal relationships where we pour into and receive from each other like cups and pitchers. We can only hear the words, "Well done, good and faithful servant," by co-laboring with God and each other. Please help me welcome leader, author, speaker, preacher, mentor, and of course, loving mother and wife, Kim Gilson, to the show. Hi, Kim.
Hi, it's so nice to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us today. So, Kim, a lot of us are taught to be independent, to not rely on anyone. You can do it yourself, right? But you have said that life is a group project. And when I think of a group project, I think, of course, carrying your own weight. But in addition to that, I think of teamwork. I think of dependency, working together to reach a common goal, and then like trusting others that they'll do their part too, right? So, why do you believe that life is a group project?
Well, I think that God has special purposes for each of us. You know, we all have our own skill sets, our gifts, our experiences, and our viewpoints. And if we just try to operate as a rogue unit of one person, then we're really limiting the inputs that we could be getting from other people. And I just don't think that most people, I mean, I'm not going to say never, never say never, right? But I think that those purposes in our lives and those gifts are designed to bless and strengthen and encourage and challenge and help others achieve God's purposes for their lives too. And so if we are only about our purposes and what we think we're supposed to be doing, but we don't allow other people to be part of the ride, then we are denying them the opportunity to fulfill their purposes, God's purposes for them in their lives.
That's good. And it's kind of like, your gifts, your talents, even your pain and suffering, it's never just about you and for you, right? What you've gone through, what you've experienced can definitely help someone else on their journey as well. And it's selfish to think that, oh, it's just about me. And, I can say that I wasn't necessarily selfish, but I went from in my life just being consumed with, oh, my family, us making money, us getting our house, us getting, our car and us being good. But God really showed me like, it's not just about you. I've called you to serve. I called you to give of yourself. I called you to, lead and help other people. So I agree with you. Like, I believe that community is vital. Like, God created us for community. We shouldn't be isolated and, locked away from the world, but we grow and we blossom. And He makes those divine connections, like not even us, like it's God leading us to people that continue to help us and propel us towards His purposes and plans in our life. So I agree with you with that. Your book is called Made for Community, a biblical model to activate your purpose. What does true community look like and what does it mean to you?
I think true community means that we can come together and respect each other's differences and respect each
Mhm,
other's point of view. But always, it's not just about what can I get from other people. It's
mhm,
what do they need from me? And that may look different in different days. My retirement job is a director at a Christian learning center. So every morning I am there greeting the parents as they drop off their most precious possessions in our care for the
mhm,
day. And I think about what all the things they have on their minds and their challenges and their fears and their struggles. They're leaving their child with us. The very least I can do is smile, make their child feel welcome, make the parents feel welcome. I have no idea what the rest of their day is going to look like, but I can
mhm.
do my small part, and it may be just an nth of their day, but I am doing something about it. I've really since the idea for the book was born out of an experience at ladies Bible study at our church one day. And this is a group that I have really wanted to in just really be part of that community, and recognizing that we all walk into church on Sunday and we've got our cup out, and man, Jesus, I'm really struggling with this, I'm really hurting in this area, I'm really worried about this, I've got this need and this need and this prayer and this prayer. But everybody is walking in with these empty cups, and who's supposed to fill it? And you could say, well, Jesus can fill our cups. And he absolutely can. He is capable. He is more than capable. But I don't know that that's what he really wants for us as a community. Like he puts us together to fill each other's cups. And so I've stopped trying to go and let me just back up. There are days that I am walking into church. Oh my God, I am an empty cup today. Like I got nothing. But I try to walk in and go, okay, yes, these are my needs. These are the things I'm struggling with. Who else do I, has needs? Where else do I see people struggling and needing something? And how can I pour
Mhm.
into them? And maybe it's an encouraging word, and maybe it's making them laugh in Bible study. Maybe it's just telling them that, man, that dress looks really great on you, because what woman doesn't want to hear that? Um, and so I just think it's recognizing that need, that not only we need other people, but my goodness, they need us.
Wow, that is so good. And sometimes we think, oh, if we just don't show up, they'll be okay, but we are needed, right? So I wanted to talk about, I read in your bio that you lost your husband back in 2024. It was a sudden loss due to a blood clot, and that sent you really on like a personal journey of grief and then reclaiming your joy for you and your sons. After that happened, did you ever feel like yourself wanting to isolate from community? And if so, how were you able to get back in?
I did, and it was community that carried me through. The Sunday
Mm.
after my husband died of the blood clot, he died on a Wednesday, my children were 13 and 15, it was the second day on a new job with a nasty commute. I mean, it was just like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, it was horrible. But we got up Sunday morning and I said, "We're going to church." And the
Wow.
preacher actually had a message that he had prepared. He didn't know if we were gonna be there or not, but he had a message prepared about us. And I thought the other day, I need to go back and listen to it. It's been a long time. But the church gathered around and they laid hands on us and they prayed over us. And we had gotten to that church a year before my husband died. And I was thinking this week, I would not have the life that I have today had it not been for this church and these people and what they meant and did for me. But there were definitely times that I wanted to isolate. And
Mhm.
and that's okay in a limited manner. There were some Sundays I couldn't get out of bed. I just couldn't do it. And I remember one Sunday I didn't go to church. I finally drugged myself to Walmart to get the weekly groceries. It's like 5 o'clock, and somebody's like, "Oh man, you're just doing so good. We're so proud of you. You're such an inspiration." I'm like, "You didn't see me. Like, I haven't brushed my teeth. I'm not wearing makeup. I'm in basically pajamas. I'm barely functioning." But I got up the next day. And I mean, golly, when you're raising the kids, you don't really have a choice. You have to get up and you have to go back. But uh, I gave myself grace to have space, but I always went back. And I think we have this idea of self-care, and it looks like you're alone in your bathtub with whatever beverage of choice you've got, and the bubbles piled up to your head, and nobody is supposed to talk to you or bother you or whatever. And that is one model of self-care. And in small doses, that's great. But I think sometimes, especially as women, we take that to an extreme, and self-care starts to look like becoming a hermit. And man, following COVID, when we were all sent to our rooms indefinitely, that was a mandate. And for some people, that became a habit. I'm 53 years old. I am in multiple Facebook groups for women going through perimenopause. And I can't tell you how many people are like, I just want to sit at home. I just don't want to be around people. And I'm like, you know what? That is a downward spiral. Like, you're not going to
Mhm.
bounce up from that. Again, if you need to
Yeah.
take a little bit of time and space to heal and to process your thoughts and to calm down, release that cortisol, bring the adrenaline down in a limited dose, that's fine. But if you stay isolated, that is not going to end well for you.
Right. I think on both ends, it could be bad. Like a person who feels like they always need to be around people and they never spend time alone, that's not good. That's extreme. And a
Agreed.
person who's always isolated and they're never with people, that's not good. That's extreme. So we have
Amen.
to kind of find the balance, you know what I mean? And try
Yes.
to do both, in whatever way
Yes.
is healthy for us. Yeah.
And I mean, I love Jesus went off by himself to pray,
Yeah. That's a
but
good
he always
example.
came back to the community. He always came back to the
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yes, absolutely. So if he had to leave people, and he did it often, if he
Yes.
had to leave to get away from all the chaos, everything to spend time alone with God and to pray, why do we think that we don't have to do the same? You said something about being in reciprocal relationships where we're cups and pitchers kind of pouring into one another. What happens in a relationship when you are constantly pouring into someone, but it's not reciprocated? What do you do in a situation like that?
So I think some people have a habit, and I talk about this in my book, of being perpetual pitchers. And you're just always pouring. And that is
Yeah.
going back to the balance. That's too much of an extreme. So some
Hmm.
people in an overall sense, they're constantly feeling like they're pouring and denying other people the opportunity to pour into them. When you've
Hmm.
got that one-way relationship and you're constantly, it's an individual and you're constantly doing all the pouring, I think there's a couple of questions to ask. Number one, is this person in a season where they can only be a cup? It's a short-lived temporary season, and you need to give them the grace that, hey, look, right now they're just not in a position to give back. And I need
Hmm.
to give them that space. Maybe there's a level of forgiveness I need to offer them. But, we always have to maintain appropriate boundaries. And we also are responsible for our own level of mental, physical, spiritual health. And so at the point where that relationship is not healthy for you, um, it's clearly a perpetual one-way street. This is not a
Hmm.
season. This is a lifestyle for this person. Then yeah, I think it's fine to establish some healthy boundaries at whatever level you need to do that. And I think there's more positive ways to handle that sometimes. It doesn't always need to be ugly. Um, but yeah, you are responsible for your overall health and wellness. And there are some people out there that, there's a term, extra grace required. Some of them have that, just extra grace required, and you might need to love them at a distance. I recently did a session with a group of kids, and I talked about, I had a graphic, and I'm not thrilled with the graphic, and I love to come up with visual representations of things, but it was this idea that you have this inner circle of people, this core group, and that's usually just a very few people that you really let into your entire world, and they know you better than anybody. And that has to be protected and vetted very well. And then outside of that, maybe you've got friends and family who are still very close to you, but they're not in that inner circle. And then there are bands, rings that go out. And
Mhm.
each level is kind of a different boundary of how close do I let people into my life. And you don't want to let people into your world past a level where it's healthy for both of you. It doesn't
Good.
mean you're not friends with them. Sometimes I think
Yeah.
young people, oh my gosh, they want to have that close personal connection, and so they let people into their inner circle too closely
Mhm.
without vetting them. I think, every woman can probably point to some boy that,
Yep.
she just really wanted that boyfriend and didn't really vet him because I just wanted to have that really close relationship. And then you figure out, no, this was not a good idea. What was I thinking? And so you didn't vet them well enough that they need to earn your trust before they come into a closer level of connection with you.
Yeah, you said something about people needing to distinguish if this person is just going through a season, right? A season that they can't really pour back into the other person. How do you like identify if a person is just in a season or if this is like a long-term thing? Like how long would it take you to even be able to recognize something like that? I know it will be different, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, I think because I'm going to tell you, after my husband died, I didn't have a lot to give. I mean, I was in survival mode. And I guess
Hmm.
maybe that's a good question. Are they in a survival season? Have they just
Yeah.
lost a job? Have they just lost a spouse? Have they just lost a child? Are they really doing the best that they can just to get out of bed every morning? And to expect much from them is just not very fair.
Yeah.
Or is this person maybe abusing the situation? Maybe this person isn't wanting to get to a healthier state of living. And man, and that is hard because everybody grieves differently. It's not fair to say, well, I mean, her husband has been dead 6 months. She should be coming back to ladies' Bible study. That's not fair to put
Yeah.
arbitrary timelines on people. But
Right.
sometimes we do see that people just kind of have some self-destructive behaviors, and that phrase victim mentality, they kind of live with that. And so I think it's very much a case by case basis, and just kind of and we never fully know what's going on with people, and so we do always want to have a heart of grace and pray for them. But if it looks like they're taking advantage of the situation, or they're not taking steps to move forward and to be a pitcher to other people, then maybe it's time to put some distance there.
Yeah. And boundaries are healthy too. I agree with you on that because some people will take advantage. They're like opportunists and we don't realize it. We just want to have relationships and friends and people will take advantage of you really quick. So you have to
Yeah.
really be cautious of who you like get close to you. So Kim, is going to church on Sunday the only way to be in godly community? For those who like might have experienced abuse, mistreatment, betrayal at the hands of people within the church, and maybe they're like still healing from that, or for the individuals who they will never step foot into a church building, or maybe they can't for whatever reason, how do they find community even though they don't go to church on Sunday?
First of all, my heart goes out to anybody that has been abused by an institution that God meant for us to be a part of, to build us up as the body of Christ. And so I think that if that's something that you are unable to participate in because of past trauma, I think the real question is, where else are you joining with other believers to strengthen each other? Now, and we need to distinguish. Yes, we want to be the light of Jesus to people that don't know him. And so that doesn't mean that we're a tribe and we only hang out with other Christians. I don't believe in that at all. We need to be in positions where we are shining his light into people that maybe don't know him, or don't follow him. But we need to be with other believers so that we are strengthening each other. And so that we are being reminded of what it looks like and feels like to be followers of Jesus. And so, you could find that in a Bible study group. Maybe you're in a community Bible study group. Maybe you volunteer with a Christian-based organization. Here in my community, we have an organization called Manna House, and it does wonderful service for the community, and it is run by Christians. It is a Christian organization. And so you could be part of the body of Christ, co-laboring with other believers in that. So maybe it's a volunteer thing, maybe it's a ministry thing. I'm going to tell you, after my first husband died, I had been widowed for about a year, and I live in a small bedroom community outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I was tired of being the only single person in town. Now, I realized I wasn't, but I felt like it. Everybody else is married with 2.5 kids in a minivan, and I stick out everywhere I go. And so a friend had told me about meetup.com. And she said after her divorce, she went to meetup.com. She said, oh, there's meetups for all kinds of interest. And she found a meetup organization for people that liked outdoor activities and went just to get outdoors and do things and meet other people, and happened to meet her husband there. So I'm like, well, I want to have community with other single Christians in a safe place. And so I just typed in Christian singles group, and I found a couple different groups, and they would do things like go to a live concert, or we're all going to go to the first one I went to, the Kennedale Baptist Church, for board games and potluck night. I thought, I am not going to be murdered in the parking lot of the Kennedale Baptist Church for Christian single board game and potluck night, And so I went, and it was so wonderful to be in a room full of other singles, mostly divorced, but some widowed, just laughing together and having fun together in a place I knew I was safe. So I
Mhm.
do encourage people, you kind of have to think outside the box a little bit, but it is important to find other communities of believers, even if it's not in a church building.
That's good, and that's gonna help so many people who are like, for whatever reason, they're scared to go back, or they've been through trauma, and there's something that's triggered in them just seeing the building, because that's a thing, So there's no excuse. You can be creative. You can find other opportunities to be around like-minded individuals so you can continue to grow. And maybe eventually, if you're able to find a safe space and you've healed to the point where you can return, you can. But if not, then it's like you still are being poured into, you still are being around other people that, accountability and things like that. So
Exactly.
I think that's good. In your book, you mentioned that loneliness has become an epidemic. Why do you necessarily believe that loneliness has become an epidemic, and what exactly can we do about it?
So the U.S. Surgeon General actually wrote a paper, I think it was 2 years ago, and he declared loneliness and social isolation to be an epidemic. And, you know, we can point to COVID. Okay. We can say COVID broke our social contracts. It may not be the best use of words, but it broke
Yeah.
us socially. And I have children who are 23 and 25, and they were in college during COVID. And I don't know that that age group has still recovered, because that's a time in your life when you're supposed to be out meeting friends that are the best man and bridesmaid in your wedding, and they didn't have community, and so it was like it was broken, and it hasn't been fixed. So, and we can point to declining church attendance over the past decades. We can point to a lot of things, but I think ultimately, if we
Mhm.
want to get down to the root cause of where loneliness is coming from, it's because God does not want us to live that way. He wants us to live in community. If we are going to achieve our purposes for his lives in community, where is the enemy going to attack? He's going to attack community. And if we are alone on our couch, binging Netflix with our dogs, not engaged in community, then Satan just scored a point. So I think that's the
Mhm.
root cause. And the way that we end it, we got to fight back. You've got to get over the awkwardness of not
Mhm.
knowing somebody. The awkwardness of being in a social setting with people you don't know. There is that initial pain point of, I don't know what to talk about. So what do we do? What do you do for a living? Well, what do you do for a living? Well, where do you live? Well, and but you work beyond that. And that is an investment that you have to be willing to get through the discomfort. So I mentioned that I went to the Kennedale Baptist Church for board game and potluck night that night. And it was time to go play a board game. And I mean, there were like 50 people in this room, and I didn't know any of them. And I felt like I was in junior high school again. Where am I going to go? Is somebody going to invite me to play with their table? I don't know what game to play. And I hear this voice behind me say, "You want to play spoons?" If he had asked if I wanted to play Russian roulette with a loaded gun, I would have said yes, just because I want to be invited to a group so bad, you know?
Yeah.
so, so that night we had the best time playing this game. And I tell you that because that was 2015. My husband had been dead a year when I went to that. I married that man this past March.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, and not that every story ends that way, but you have to get over the fear and the discomfort and the awkwardness to form a connection and a friendship.
I agree. I feel like there is an attack on us, socializing. I remember I went this past July to a summit, and for some reason, I'm like, I have to go do this by myself. Like, I didn't want to bring anyone. And oh my gosh, there was so much warfare going to this thing. It was like a 2-day event in another state. It was in Georgia. I'm in Illinois. So I had to fly out. I have kids, I had to line up, someone to watch them. Like, there were so many excuses that I could have made to not go to this thing. And I went, and it was like a lot of networking. I had to like sit down and talk. I ate breakfast with a stranger, and we are just talking about, it was about podcasting and stuff like that. And I'm like, this isn't as bad as I thought. I think I was just overthinking, but the warfare that was there trying to prevent me from getting in this community, seeing myself in that environment, socializing, meeting new people, and building community, and specifically around what I'm doing, which is podcasting. I'm like, wow, like it was such a transformative experience. I think if we just lean on God when he's telling us to do something and stop overthinking, that things would just go so much better. But we sometimes get in the way of that.
And we have to remind ourselves the other people are just as stressed out about
Yeah.
it as we are, and they want to be in community too. So it's not like
Mhm.
you're forcing yourself on people who don't want that. Like, just, I can almost guarantee you that any person out there who looks lonely probably is and would probably love to have a new friend in their life.
Yes. I love that. I love that so much. You've said that you believe that it's important for us to co-labor with God and with each other, but some might say, okay, well, then it's the opposite of, oh, I can do it myself. Now it's like it's just me and God. People don't matter. Like me and God got this. What is your response to a person who says, I don't need people. I have God. Like I don't need anyone else. What would you say to that?
Well, let me just wrap myself out because I'll tell you, I was an overachiever in high school. Okay. I figured out if I worked hard and I studied hard and I practiced my clarinet hard, I could make good grades and I could win contests. And I had life figured out. Right. And I remember one day I said, you know what, God, man, I got this life thing figured out. I promise you, I said this. I've got this life thing figured out. And there are a lot of people out there that I know really need you. Like they can't function without you. I'm really doing pretty well. I'll call you if I need you. So,
Oh,
so I'm
wow.
going to say that, oh yeah, I'm not proud of this. Okay. And let
Yeah.
me tell you, it caught up with me. Um, but, uh, but there was this, yeah, I've kind of got this figured out. Life is kind of like a vending machine. If I put in hard work and effort and a good attitude and grit and all of this, that good things will come out of it. And and I learned as time went on, you get married and you have children and you realize the need for other people. But I'm going to tell you, when my husband died, Uh, I realized then how badly I needed other people, and in ways I didn't realize. I mean, I think that's the thing. We don't always realize the ways that we need people. And on a surface level, my former team, I said it was the second day on a new job. My former team showed up the day after my husband died with paper products. I didn't know how badly I was going to appreciate those paper products, because when you have an unexpected death in the family, you have people and they are just coming and going. And you don't think to buy toilet paper. I mean, so something that basic, but
Yeah.
then just the ongoing, and the people that would bring food, or they would send a gift card, or they would take me to dinner, or they became my new world. That's the thing. I couldn't build a new world alone. I had to have them. And so, yes, you and God together are great, but you and God and the other children in the family together, that is powerful.
Yes, someone needs to hear that for sure. For sure. We do need each other, and think of it like we are God's hands and feet here on the earth. He accomplishes a lot through people, and to think that we don't need anyone is like, okay, you're potentially blocking your own blessing because you don't want help from others. So, yeah, I think that's very important. You had mentioned that church attendance is really down. What can the body of Christ do to foster greater community and not just build it, but create like a longevity and maintain, the community through the ups and downs and all these things that are going on? What can the body of Christ do to create like maybe like a sense of loyalty within the community and the longevity that it needs to last?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think realizing, meeting people where they are, and maybe we need to do a better job at identifying where people are when they walk in the doors of the church. Are you in a season where you're really looking to serve? Are you in a season where you need your cups filled? And uh and getting them plugged in. I think maybe being more intentional. We did a thing a few years ago at my church. I did an 8-week class, and we kind of did a deal where we went around with post-it notes, and where are you a cup, and where are you a pitcher, and where can we kind of match people up. And I almost think we need to be more intentional at plugging people in once they walk in the door,
Mhm.
not just kind of trusting that they're going to figure it out on their own, but really trying to identify, well, what is it that you need, and where would you like to fit in? And then expanding our reach beyond the church walls. I think it's being involved in community events. I know my church, we have a mayor's bash, back to school bash every year, and my church is there, and they usually have a candy cannon, and they're shooting out candy and giving stuff out, and meeting people face to face. I mean, hey, virtual has opened up so many doors, and I certainly think that there is something to virtual, but I don't think we need to discount getting out and being present and being in our communities. I will tell you, one of our associate pastors at our church is our town mayor.
Oh,
And
wow.
getting involved in your communities to that extent,
Yeah.
because he really sees where the needs are, and he is. If every town had a mayor like Justin Kaufman, let me just tell you, the world would be a
Mhm.
better place. Um, because I know we think about the global needs and the universal needs, but man, there are needs within our own community to be involved in. And so I just think, yes, it's great to send missions to other countries, but what can we do within our own community to get our names out there so that people will want to come to our church?
Yes, that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think every church needs to hear that and is asking the same questions because they've all, after COVID, it's all like been extremely difficult, and then the inconsistencies, like people show up and then they're gone for months, and you
Mm.
just never know what happened to them, stuff like that. So they need to hear that for sure. Um, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you believe a person can achieve their God-given purpose without community?
No, because your God-given purpose involves community.
Wow, yeah, I knew
I mean, if your
that.
God-given purpose only benefits you, now maybe you're a hermit and you live on the top of a mountain and your purpose is to care for, I don't know, 6 squirrels. But where are you going to learn to care for the 6 squirrels? I just cannot imagine a purpose that doesn't involve other people.
Yeah, I agree. I agree for sure. So, being in community, of course, we talked about it, it brings growth, it brings the opportunity for accountability. If someone is ready to kind of, maybe they're at a season of their life where they've been isolated, if they're ready to leave like their isolated state and find community that's right for them, what do you recommend they do first?
Oh, that's a great question. I think you need to examine options. Make a list of places you could go, groups you could join, people you could reach out to, and then figure out what is a safe and comfortable entry point for you.
Mhm.
Maybe it's one on one. Maybe it's reaching out to somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. Maybe you used to do things together before COVID and now you don't. Maybe you have a passion on your heart for helping or serving certain people. Maybe you love dogs. And so, maybe a safe entry point for you is volunteering at an animal shelter with other people who love dogs. Like, what is safe and comfortable for you? I'm a pretty big extrovert. So, for me to go to a Christian singles meetup with 50 other people I had never met before by myself, that was something I felt comfortable doing. Again,
Mhm.
I was trying to control external factors and making sure it was in a safe neighborhood and a location and it wasn't too far away from home and that kind of thing. But just pick something that is safe and comfortable for you. If it's a church, there are so many churches out there with websites that tell you exactly when their services are, what do their small groups look like, when do their small groups meet. And one thing I'll say for people that want to reach out to a church, call them ahead of time. Introduce yourself before you walk in the door. Give them an opportunity to really put their best foot forward. Maybe say, hey, I want to come back to church. It's been a while. I'm this many years old. I'm widowed. I'm single. I'm married, whatever. So that they can maybe identify some people there to greet you when you walk in the door. Um,
Mhm.
I was part of a church plant and it folded a year before my husband died. And we were a fairly large group of people looking to find a new church home, and one of them called Harvest Hill and said, hey, look, we're walking in with a pretty large group of people Sunday. We're not looking to invade. We're hurting. We're broken. We want a church family. And they had like a welcome crew there to meet us. And so yeah, I just think making a list of options. Anytime we have choice, we feel like we have some control and agency in our lives. So
Mhm.
if you come up with 5 options and you pick the one that feels the most natural and the safest for you, guess what? You chose, you made a choice, you exercised control over your own destiny.
I like that. And community can just start with one person. I feel like people think that they have to go to like this big event and that might cause more hesitation, more anxiety, but it could really just start with that one person. Like you said, call someone that you already know and
Yeah,
reconnect with them or meet up with that one person, and it could just grow from there.
exactly.
But it's a start at least.
Right. Yeah, just take one step at a time.
Yes. You believe that stories have power, right? Can you share one of your most memorable testimonies or stories that you feel solidified your faith in Jesus Christ so much that from that point on you knew no one can tell me God is not real?
Yeah. So the spring before my husband died, there was a lot going on. And one day I said to him, "Oh, I would really like to go work at the Region 10 Education Service Center, but it's 45 miles away on the other side of Dallas, and our kids are too young. So maybe someday, but that's my dream job." Well, we placed membership with our church and we're growing spiritually. So I had something happen that had not happened before. One night I had a dream, and I dreamed that I was driving down the road with my boss, Judy, and she was driving and I was in the passenger seat, and she made a wide right turn and I went flying out the passenger window over the car and landed in a calm body of water. Next part of the dream, I'm driving. I have a passenger. I don't know who my passenger is. I make a wide right turn and my passenger goes flying out the window. So I had never really had what I would call a spiritual dream before that point, but I knew there was something special about this dream. And so I took it to my preacher and he said, "Well, let me pray on it." And so a few days later, he's like, "I need you to call me." He said, "Look, this is a warning dream. Something bad is about to go down with you and your boss." And I said, "I really don't think that's it." I said, "I was hoping you were going to tell me I was getting a new job because I'm kind of tired of the one I've got." So a few weeks later, the phone rings and this woman says, "Hey, Kim, it's Jana at the Region 10 Education Service Center with the dream job I wanted." There's only one position that does my dream job at this particular place. She said, "I'm leaving. You want my job?" So I called my husband and he said, "You're going to take this job. I don't want to hear about the drive. I don't want to hear about the money. This is perfect for you. You're taking the job." So I'm like, I think I was right. I got a new job. I got my dream job. First part of the dream. We got it, man. Wonder what the second part of that dream is. And I don't know when it hit me, but after he died of the blood clot, day 2 of the new job, I went, he was the passenger in the second part of the dream. He was the passenger that went flying out the window, and I didn't know who he was, but I continued on driving by myself. And I'm like, okay, this does not happen to me. This is not the kind of thing. I've never had anything like this happen. And I'm like, okay, well, why did God give me this dream? Because clearly, this is where we were going here. And I thought this was not a warning dream. God was not giving me this dream to try to stop anything. I really think this was God's way of saying, I see ahead. I know what's coming and I have a plan, and you're safe and you're gonna be okay. And as horrible and as traumatic as that experience was, I always knew that God had me. And to this day, I believe that he has plans for us. And we may not get the answer to the prayer that we want, but he's got a plan and we can trust him.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Kim, thank you so much for joining our community today. Where can people connect with you or purchase your book?
So my book is on Amazon, Made for Community, a biblical model to activate your purpose, and it is available in Kindle Unlimited and an ebook if you don't have Kindle Unlimited, or you can get the paperback. And then you can follow me at excelevate.com. And that it means activating the excellence in you. I made up a word and got the .com. So it's EXCELLIVANCE. And I've been a little quiet lately. I had a lot going on this past year. I got engaged. I got married. I wrote a book. I went on a cruise with my sister to Alaska. I had a honeymoon with my husband. I was trying to learn all this marketing thing. And a few weeks ago, I went to God and I was like, God, there's so much going on. And I don't know what to do next. And I'm not sure what my next step is. And do you want me to write another book? And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I just feel like I'm floating. And I heard him say, just float. It's okay. And so I've just been taking a few weeks to just float and just rest. And I'm waiting
That's
for
good.
the next steps, but I'm enjoying kind of recovering in this peace. I really feel like he's called me into a season of rest and recovery and peace as we gear up for whatever he has for me next.
Yes, and definitely rest because I'm sure something's coming and he wants us to be prepared and ready. When we run ourselves into the ground and we're constantly doing stuff and then he brings opportunities or opens doors, we don't want to be able to miss what he has for us because we're exhausted. And I'm talking to myself because that's been the last 3 weeks of my life. God kind of like got me back on track because I was just not taking care of myself. I was, but then I kind of fell off and just focusing on work. But he really put it on my heart to say, hey, mind, body, and spirit, take care of every area of your life. Don't neglect your exercising. Don't neglect eating good. Don't neglect reading your word, praying, spending time with me. You don't neglect, like, it's so much. And even rest. Go to
Yes.
have a bedtime and go to sleep on time. You need rest. Go to sleep.
Yes. I did
Don't
wanted to
neglect
hear
that.
somebody else say this. I feel so validated. Thank you.
So I have a bedtime. All right.
Good.
And I'm like telling the kids, I'm like, look, okay, you guys got to go to sleep so I can go to sleep. I have a bedtime.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to stay up all night because I do believe that lack of rest, we might think like we're depressed, but it's actually like we're just super tired because we're not prioritizing rest like we should be, because if God created everything and he rested, why do we feel like we don't have to?
Amen. Amen. And you can wear yourself out thinking you're doing for the Lord, and He does not call us to do that.
Mhm.
Jesus
Exactly.
walked,
So
He did not run.
exactly. So
Yeah.
he woke me up, and got me back on the right track. So thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today. And I'll make sure that I put all of your information in the details so that our community can connect with you into the lovely community. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Please subscribe to us on YouTube so God can continue to bless this platform and he can use it for his glory. Thank you, and I will see you in the next episode.